Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and today we're going to dive back into the world of Euphoria, the teenage drama series that was created and written by Sam Livingston for HBO. It's actually based on a mini series in Israel by the same name, believe it or not. And the series stars Zendaya. And Zendaya, at that time of her career, or just before, she was a Disney star. You know, she was on, I forgot the name of the show, but she was on a Disney show, and everybody knew her as this sweet young girl. And then she signs on to this show, and all that changed. You know, I think I remember it was Casey Undercover, I believe the name of the show. But anyway, my daughters used to watch that show, and they, of course, followed her over to Euphoria. And I would say straight off the bat, I was a late bloomer to Euphoria. I think after season one and all of the phenomenon was going on, I didn't watch the show because I thought it was one of these teen comedies or teen dramas like Degassi, which I didn't watch, and stuff like that. I didn't want to watch that. You know, obviously that's not my demographic, so I said nah. I'll pass. Now my daughters watched it; they loved it, and then you go online and peer pressure gets the best of you. I see a lot of people enjoying it, and so me and my wife we went back and started watching it, and completely enjoyed this show. I was hooked from episode one on, and after I finished the season, I was so excited. I completely forgot that my kids watching this show, and it dawned on me after the fact. I'm like, wait, hold up, because I went to talk to them about it, and I'm like, man, you remember this part or this character? This is my favorite character, and this, and then it hit me. I'm like, wait. I'm talking to my teenage daughters here about this show, but I didn't care. None of that mattered at that point. I actually was happy that they watched this show because they could see how life is on the other side, without having to experience it themselves. The show, in case you don't know what Euphoria is about, we follow Rue Bennett, who is portrayed by Zendaya, and she's a troubled teenage drug addict who struggles to get sober and to find her place in the world. And she's adjusting to her relationships after rehab. Rue is the center focus of the show, and it begins with most episodes providing backstory for the rest of the main characters. And that's how the show is kind of rolled out, and I enjoyed that setup throughout his run. The first season of Euphoria premiered on June the 16th of 2019, and it concluded with 8 episodes. We got 2 1-hour specials that were broadcast in 2020 in between season 1 and season 2. And then we got the 8-episode second season, which premiered on January the 9th of 2022. And we are geared up, getting ready. Mouth is watering for season 3, which will finally be released on HBO April the 12th of 2026. And in anticipation for season 3, I decided to go back and watch the first 2 seasons of Euphoria because let's be honest, I've forgotten a lot of stuff that has taken place in this world that has been set up. And I want to go into this new season just ready to roll, without having to sit there and try to remember, well, okay, why is this character here? Or why are these characters doing this? And why, just racking my brain because it's been 5 years since the last season, or 4 years, or 4.5, whatever, since we've seen these characters. And unfortunately, a lot of these characters or a lot of these actors who portrayed these characters have passed away since, and it's sad. You know, you have Eric Dean who just passed away. What, about a month ago? From ALS. Man, that one hit. That one hit pretty hard. He also had Angus Cloud, who passed away a couple of years back. It's sad, bro, because those were some of my favorite characters, and it hurts to see them go. But we're gonna bargain on. We're gonna soldier on without those two characters and a few other characters as well who are not returning. I think Stormy Reed, she's not returning. She plays Zendaya's sister on the show, and her character is not returning. Uh, Along with others, but we're going in a different direction here. I assume we're telling a different story, and hopefully it works. Hopefully it works out. But let's go back. I figured we'll go back since I rewatched it, got reacclimated with this world. I'm going to help you out in case you don't have the time to go back and watch the first two seasons of Euphoria. I did it for you. And so we're going to go back and I'm going to do the best I can and break down the first two seasons of Euphoria in anticipation for the long awaited third season. Now, I'm not going to go every single episode, every single scene breakdown. That's not what I do. So we're going to do more of a Cliff Notes format here. We're just going to break down the major plot points of every season, and maybe some moments that stuck out to me, and we'll just go over that. But as far as every single, oh man, remember when Sydney Sweeney was in? No, I'm not doing all that. Starting with season 1 of Euphoria, and it follows 17-year-old Rue Bennett, who is portrayed by Zendaya, and she's returning from rehab and immediately relapses, exploring themes of addiction, trauma, and identity. The show is narrated by Rue, and the season centers around her intense, codependent relationship with Jules Vaughn, a transgender teen. It's so while navigating interconnective high school dramas involving toxic relationships, sexual explorations, and online catfishing, even. It's when that was a thing. Or is it still a thing? I don't know. I don't know if it is or is it at this point. But here are some key storylines and character arcs that took place in season 1. Of course, Rue Bennett, she struggles to stay sober, alternate between intense highs and deep depression. She falls in love with Jules, and the relationship is kind of a tall task for both. You know, Jules doesn't want to be in a relationship or even have a friendship with anybody with an addiction, and for Rue's sake, Jules is the only thing that's kind of keeping her together. So there's a big gap between the two. Speaking of Jules, as I mentioned before, is a new transgender girl who navigates her own identity. She got online dangers and has this blossoming relationship brewing with Rue. And there's a sexual encounter she has with a local that plays a big part going forward in this series. We have Nate Jacobs, who is a popular, athletic, deeply repressed psychopath who manipulates everyone he's around, including his girlfriend Maddie and Jules. The connection there is, well, first and foremost, Nat Jacobs is portrayed by Jacob Elordi, who is the it thing in Hollywood right now, coming off of the Oscar-nominated performance he gave in Frankenstein, and he was in Saltburn. He has a few other projects lined up for him. He is killing it in Hollywood right now as far as feature films are concerned. but he got his start here. This is where it all begun. But his relationship with Maddie is probably the most toxic relationship I ever seen on television. They are they are the most disturbing individual. I don't know why they would even be together. But that's well, you know, people say that about me and my wife too. So I don't know why they would even attempt to be together. But it's the cliche, you know, because he's the most clicheist of teen dramas. He's the good-looking, athletic, popular, rich kid in school. And of course, he's going to be together with the most beautiful girl in school. So, or one of the most beautiful girls in school. So it's weird. It's a weird relationship. The dynamic between him and Jules that stems from the fact that Nat's father, who is portrayed by the late great Eric Dean or Dane, he they had a sexual encounter. And so with that happening, now Nat wants to wants to 86 Jules in this sense. It is a whole thing with that. Going back to Maddie Perez to hear her character is basically she endures this abusive relationship with Nat, and they ultimately break up in this season, and she's navigating in the aftermath of all this toxicity. But one of the problems she has is that she feels she always has to return to Nat to remain relevant, which a lot of abusive, if I could talk, abusive relationships, that's how they end up continuing a lot of the times because of the mental toll it plays on you. You know, it's like, well, I can't do any better. Or he really did like me. He really did love me. Oh, he was a good father. Well, it was that one time he did replace the toilet paper on the roll. And, you know, it's just stupid little things that you find to get to make an excuse to stay with that person who is mentally, if not physically, tearing you apart. And that is depicted through Maddie here in this series. We have Kate or Kat, who, my God, man, that is one of the scariest characters for me because, like I said, as a father of two girls, man, this is the one thing I didn't want my children to go through. I did not want them to deal with this. She after she loses her virginity, she just goes buck wild for sex, you know, and she starts to develop this confidence and explore her sexuality after she did have one this kind of incident online, but after that didn't break her down. That just made her more of a freak, if you will. And I'm not saying that is a derogatory way, but you know, a sexual freak. And she moves away from her socially awkward persona that she had prior, and now she's this dominant sexual just pariah on the show. Very, very frightening. We move on to Cassie, and Cassie, portrayed on this show by Sydney Sweeney. She's dealing with some daddy issues, and it's severe, man. She has family trauma and all this. This is the clear postal child for daddy issues because she's constantly searching for that void to be filled. You know, her father was a drug addict and whatnot, so she's looking for that father figure in her life, and it's, oh my God, once again, as a father, that's my biggest fear. I did not want to leave any void for somebody to come along and fill for my girls. You know, I needed to be there every step of the way because, man, I couldn't deal with the repercussions of I failed them. I failed at a lot of things in life, but I didn't want to fail them, and I'm still fighting that fight. And they're grown now, but I still want to be that that peace, that they can rely on no matter what's going on in their life. And so Cassie here, she didn't have that. She doesn't have that, and she's constantly trying to fill that void. She's going through a pregnancy issue, and that leads up to an abortion in the first season, and it's just, man, her trying to, it is so tragic. Her story is so tragic. It's heartbreaking. Actually, all of their stories are heartbreaking, but man, for her, because I've seen that happen. I've witnessed that. Uh, uh, and not nobody I know him family wise, so the family can chill. But I'm unless you hadn't told me, but I've seen that happen to young ladies that were close to me, and so at the end of this season, we get the breakup. Jules, she's feeling overwhelmed by the pressure of being with Rue solely for the reason of sobriety, because that's basically what Rue is with Jules for, because she doesn't have to rely on drugs or alcohol or whatever, any of her vices when she's around Jules, because Jules fills that void for her. She is the ultimate high for her. But that's not what Jules wants. It was kind of confusing, but I kind of get it, but I kind of don't at the same time. But she feels that Rue should want better for herself just because, not just for her, but for herself. And she ultimately leaves Rue, which leads to one of the most epic relapses at the I've ever seen. It's weird because it was heartbreaking, but such a visual feast at the end of the season when we got that musical finale. When she was going through this relapse, this surreal choreographed musical number that was highlighted by Labyrinth song and Zendaya. Zendaya has a verse on that song as well, and she descends back into addiction. Heartbreaking, man. It was a heartbreaking, well performed episode. Season. I meant to say, but the key themes of the season was addiction. The show portrayed addiction not just as a drug use, but as a mental state. It wasn't just Rue with her drug addiction. It was Kat with her sex addiction. It was Maddie with her self-worth addiction, as well as Cassie. It was a lot of addiction. You can be addicted to more than drugs and alcohol. You do know that, right? And so it really touched in on that and showcased that. It also dealt with trauma. Nearly all the characters are shaped by past trauma, whether it's missing parents or sexual pressure or abuse of any sorts, whether it was mental or physical or sexual. And so it is a lot of trauma that our characters deal with. And also one of the key themes of season one, it dealt with social media and identity. Euphoria highlights how Generation Z defines themselves through a digital lens. And I thought that was also a very unique way to look at it. I hate to keep going back to this well, but I gotta, connect to it personally in order to convey it. As a father of Gen Z's girls, I appreciate that, and it made me look at things differently as a dad. It made me look at things, maybe I should do this differently or talk more about these issues, because there's a lot of things that I didn't talk about with my girls because I didn't think it was appropriate for me to be talking to my girls about. But, this show, believe it or not, gave me the courage to talk to my girls on a deeper level. And I do appreciate this show for that. And I learned a lot. Some things I'm glad that I found out. Some things I wish I didn't. But I'm happy that I know it. I'm happy that we can share that other than me finding out any other way, So I do appreciate that. But yeah, season one was bananas. I loved it for everything, every point that it brought out. The performances were just outstanding, from Zendaya to Jacob Elordi to Hunter Schafer to Sydney Sweeney and everybody. It wasn't a bad performance there. Angus Cloud, R.I.P. You know, all of them were great, and they were perfectly cast in their roles. That is the breakdown of season one. Let's dive into season two of Euphoria, which premiered on January the 9th, 2022, and it consisted of 8 episodes. And in this second season, it continues on with the same themes of addiction, trauma, and toxic relationships. We find Rue, she hits rock bottom after the split with Jules. This initiates a painful detox where she seeks redemption for her past. We have Nat and Cassie. Their affair destroys the friendship between Cassie and Maddie, and this is all played out. This is all played out in a play that was put together by Lexi, a school play nonetheless, where the the play depicts all of our major characters in this show, and it was the most ridiculous thing ever. This is the only thing about season two. Now I get the vision of it all, you know, the poetic view of it all. Yeah, but it was so weird to me. I didn't connect with the play aspect of it. Now it was funny. It was funny when we got through it with all our characters seeing themselves in this play, and it's just hilarious. But the play, it ended with Rue being sober, Ash being dead, and Fizz in jail, which pretty much happened. And this is forcing all the characters to face the consequences of their actions. And that's what season two was all about. The key plot points in season two, of course, we start off with our lead character of Rue, played by Zendaya. Her downfall, a downward spiral in her recovery, and I put that in heavy rotations there. Rue, she spirals into several drug addictions, not just one, but she was trying them all, using drugs supplied by Elordi. After Jules and Elliot reveal her addiction, Rue's mom destroys her stash, leading to a violent withdrawal breakdown. Rue reconciles with herself and stays sober for the remainder of the school year, but her relationship with Jules is left in the past, viewing it as her first love rather than a current one. One element of the show I wish that they would have kind of dove in a little deeper would have been Rue and her sister. I wish we would have got more with that and how it affected her sister so much. And we didn't get that, you know. Now, I know there's only so much television, you know, only so much screen time with all of these actors and all of these storylines and whatnot. I understand that, but, and I can't sit here and tell you which storyline to omit to flush out the Rue and her sister storyline. But I wish just a little, I don't know, just a little something. It just felt a little uneven in the home life of Rue with me. We get the dynamic with Rue and her mother. That was flushed out fairly well, but nothing with the sister. And the fact that we're not getting that character in season three lets you know that we'll never get it. It looks like we'll never get anything involving that. Now, it's a nitpick. Is it necessary to have that? No, obviously not, but I would have liked to have seen it. Another key plot point, we have the love triangle between Cassie, Nat, and Maddie here. Cassie and Nat began a toxic affair behind Maddie's back. Cassie becomes obsessively unhinged, leading to a violent confrontation with Natty during Lex's play. All the while, we have Nat continuing to be the manipulative, unstable force that he is, ultimately betraying his own father by setting him up for arrest, which just shows that his loyalty and love and allegiance has no bounds, man. And that is my God, that's a despicable character there. Um, the other plot point, well, one of the other plot points is the play, and that was a major focus in season 2. That play from Lexi, and the name of the play was Our Life. And Lexi, she was basically tired of being an observer of all of these shenanigans going on in her school with her friends. So she directs a play that exposes the intimate and the traumatic, humiliating details of her friends' lives. You know, like any good friend would do. It was so ridiculous, the play. It was so. Look, I know I'm super detached from high school life. I'm 30 plus years since I've stepped foot in a high school as far as being a student. I don't know how things have changed. I'm pretty sure things have changed. But no way this play would have went on in my high school. There is no way on God's green earth anything this explosive it would happen at my school. No way. No way. We couldn't wear starter jackets. You know, you know, we couldn't have book bags that weren't see-through in my high school. It's no way we would have had a play that would expose the private lives of other students for everybody else to enjoy. But, you know, this is television. It's Hollywood. So you have to suspend disbelief to an extent. But it was a hard pill to swallow. But it did help the story in the sense that we did get some continued drama from this. It caused so much drama that Cassie and Maddie, they went to blows over this. They had a fight. You know, it serves as a tool for Lexi to process her trauma and provide a wake up call for the characters in this story. You know, for her friends such as Cassie and Rue, and it was something of a intervention, if you will. You know, to kind of turn the mirror on these people because she didn't know any other way to get through to them. And so I get all of that aspect of it. It was just so weird to do it in this fashion. You know, it was so strange, but you know, it was entertaining. I will give it that. The next plot point of season 2, it was, I don't know, man, this was the hardest pill to swallow. And when I think back in hindsight, it's good that we took a 5-year hiatus because I'm still not over this. And that is the fizz and ashtray element of season 2. The tragic end to these two characters. In the finale, the police raid Fizz and Ashtray's home after Cluster is killed by Ash. Ash barricades himself in the bathroom, which leads to a shootout where he is killed. And Fizz is shot and arrested, unable to save his brother. Let me tell you, man, you want to talk about gut punch of an episode. My God, I put it up there with some of the most traumatic finales or episodes of television I've ever watched, because Ashtray was probably one of my favorite characters on the show. Not because I relate to him so much or anything, but he was just so entertaining. I just loved that character. And Fizz too, man. Fizz was I don't know how to word it. You know, it's just something I loved about those two characters. And the mere fact that there's no way we can resurrect those characters, especially Fizz, being as though Angus Cloud tragically passed away a few years ago. Man, it's gut wrenching. And Ashtray, bruh. but he went out like a G. He went out like a soldier. But yeah, that was tough. That was tough. Still not over it. Still not over it to this day. The final plot point of season 2 was the theme of trauma. And the season highlights that characters are motivated by past traumas. You have Rue, grief over her father, Nat, uh, distorted view of love because of his father, Cassie's abandonment issues because of her father, and so on and so forth. It's so much there uh, that really shines a light, not so much on the children, but on the parents. That the parents have failed these particular children characters so much. And man, look at the results. Look at the aftermath of the decisions you make. And that brings up what I was saying earlier about myself, why I really have to sit back and look in the mirror sometimes. And I can admit when I'm wrong. I've been on an apology tour for the past few months here with my kids. Thinking back on when they were younger and things that I did and, I thought were the best things I was doing for the best. But I look back now, my intentions may have been good, but I could have done it better. And I acknowledge that to them. And I apologize that, I wish I could have done it better. Because I don't want any reason for them to write a tell-all book in 20 years, entitled "My Father's a Scumbag" or something like that. I want them to know that I was wrong in a lot of things. I made mistakes, but I'm trying to do better by those mistakes. Yeah, man, these children, even though they weren't children when they made it, and they definitely aren't children now, but the characters have experienced so much trauma in their lives that it just created these toxic human beings, and it's so sad to see. And you can't help but feel sorry for them and cheer for them to overcome it in some shape, form, or fashion. Just to summarize the ending of this season, the season ends on a hopeful note, yet it's a kind of a uncertain hope, if that makes any sense, for Rue, who has chosen sobriety over her toxic relationships, specifically the one with Jules. And so the central drama has left the characters in different, mostly damaged places, such as Cassie and Maddie. Their friendship is destroyed. Nat is fully embraced his villain role, and Fizz faces a bleak future in police custody. I would love to see how they write that in season 3, being as though the circumstances surrounding that character and who played him. But yeah, going by the trailer that we saw for season 3, it looks like Rue is out on the run, hiding out somewhere, and she's found. I think Laura finds her. So there's a problem there. It looks like Cassie and Nat have gotten married up to this point, and Cassie is on OnlyFans selling pictures or doing cam girl stuff in her spare time, and so it's still they're grown adults now, but they're still damaged. Now, as far as the omissions, I think Jules is not returning because I don't think Hunter Schafer is returning. Of course, we know about Angus Cloud passed away. I don't think the actor who portrays Maddie is returning. I'm not sure. Actually, I take that back. She is returning. The one who isn't returning is oh my God, the actress who plays Kat. She's not returning. And so yeah, there's going to be a lot of characters that we will not be seeing return this upcoming season, but our nucleus is still there. We still have Zendaya, we still have Sydney Sweeney, we still have Jacob Elordi. And so there's still some meat on that bone there. So I will love, and I want to know what's going on with these characters. How are they coping in this new life that they are living. And so let's see, come April the 14th, how this story continues when Euphoria drops on HBO for all of your viewing pleasure. I can't wait for this. I am fully prepared. I am fully prepared for this not to be as good as the first two seasons because, like I said, a lot of characters aren't returning, and there was a lot of drama behind the scenes of the season three. So much has happened. Why it's taking so long? It isn't for creative reasons. Yes, you had a couple of strikes to take place in between there, but you had Zendaya blowing up, Sydney Sweeney blowing up, Jacob Elordi blowing up. There's a lot of political reasons, with political views from a lot of actors on the show that sadly they probably were friends before this the last administration took office, but not so much now, to the point where they're not going to be promoting the show together. So there's so much going on behind the scenes, and I think Zendaya and Sam Livingston had a little falling out, I think, but they kind of patched it up to get through this season. Labyrinth, who does the music for the show, he said he's quitting. He's quitting. He's done after this. It's just so much. And then not only did Angus Cloud pass away, you had Eric Dane pass away, and so it's so much behind the scenes, just trauma. Yeah, I was right, trauma that took place, ironically, on a show that deals with trauma. But in spite of it all, we are going to get this season kicking and screaming. We got it. But I would like to know, are you ready for Euphoria? Are you excited, or have you just said, forget it? 2 seasons were good enough for me. I'm done. There's nothing more to get squeezed. There's no more juice in that orange to squeeze. I would love to know. Me personally, I just want to see a conclusion, because they haven't officially announced that this was the final season, but I'm pretty sure this is it. I mean, everybody else has moved on. I'm talking about the behind the scenes of it all. The actors, they moved on to bigger and better things. They're being nominated for Academy Awards and stuff. I mean, come on. Come on. And you can't play teenagers forever. Actually, I think they're old. I think they aged up for season 3, but y'all get my drift. It's time to move on. I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this recap of the first 2 seasons of Euphoria. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.